We're joined now by Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson. Ray, thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
My pleasure, Sean and Anthony. Good to see you guys.
You as well. It has been a busy 6 or 7 months for you, for ASU athletics. Obviously, the Kenny Dillingham hire, Bobby Hurley getting extended, golf, track, everything under the sun, Mullet Arena as well. How would you assess just the state of Arizona State athletics as it stands right now?
Very energetic, very excited about the way forward. Most importantly, I think there's a sense of energy and renewed hope, certainly in football, and I think folks are excited about all of our sports: men's basketball, hockey, wrestling, gymnastics, across the board, swimming and diving, as you know. Track and field, the best finish since 2010. So I think we are coming out of a period of doldrums into a period of real excitement and expectations of really doing well going forward. So excited about Sun Devil athletics.
You mentioned a lot of those programs that have been really successful, particularly a lot of the non-revenue sports. I honestly just realized that this is the only school that has hockey, wrestling, gymnastics, water polo, beach volleyball. Like the non-revenue sports have been a very successful part of this athletic program, but obviously, you know, the revenue sports are important for a very obvious reason. How do you kind of balance the success of those non-revenue sports versus the revenue sports, and how do you think that compares to how the fan base kind of balances those two?
Well, I would hope everyone would understand that across the board, the student athlete experience across all the sports is a very, very valuable and necessary leadership development opportunity. So we're not just football and basketball and don't want to be. We're proud that we have 26, 27 varsity sports, including the so-called non-revenue sports. But there are a lot of participants in there from a lot of backgrounds, and that's really important to us. We always talk about having one of the largest student populations in the country from all over the world, and we believe that you should offer sports that everybody can relate to, and that's just not football and men's basketball. So we think it's a good balance. It fits with our culture. It fits with our international aspirations and outreach for branding and really letting folks know about Arizona State. That being said, football, basketball, and now hockey are 3 revenue sports that have to be successful in order to continue to fund the non-revenue sports. They're all very important, but at the end of the day, you do have to afford to operate them. And so we have to focus on football, and basketball, and hockey, in baseball are coming along as our revenue producers. But we are bound and determined to keep all of our sports because they're all so important. And when people call them the non-revenue sports, I understand that. We call them the Olympic sports that feed our Olympic and our international teams, which are very important to us, and we hope this whole country.
Of course. Before we dive too heavy and get back into ASU as a whole, obviously a lot going on with the Pac-12 as a conference in general. A lot's been made of the media rights deal right now, the timing of it all, the numbers. I'm just curious as to what your thoughts on where it stands right now.
Well, we're hopeful that we're getting closer, but I got to tell you, it's been 10 or 12 months that I've been telling people, hey, just wait 2 more weeks. Just wait 2 more weeks. We're getting close. We're almost to the finish line. And here we are, June, and it's been a lot more than 2 more weeks. But that being said, there is some renewed optimism, and you've seen some of the comments, including one of our presidents in the Pac-12, indicating that he was at least optimistic that we're getting closer, and I believe we are. I think our commissioner, George Kleofkoff, under very difficult circumstances, is pushing and advancing as best we can. So we're all hopeful, certainly this summer. I don't know when this summer. I won't say 2 weeks from now because I've been wrong on that about a dozen times. But sometime this summer, it would be nice to get some clarity, because then you take the next steps. You can settle, you can look around, you can be real confident about who's going to be here, and then you start contemplating, or does it make sense for us to expand? All those things are exciting things that we're very frankly anticipating anxiously to have some clarity on in the next, I won't say 2 weeks, but I will say the next couple months.
Yeah, and you mentioned the expansion, and I know we're going to talk kind of about the future of the conference in a second, but like, I guess just what are you kind of looking to get out of this media rights deal? Obviously, a big thing that we've talked about is kind of the ease of access or lack thereof, as far as like the Pac-12 network has been over the last few years. Like, what is kind of your goal as far as Arizona State is concerned with this media rights deal?
Well, very honestly, bottom line, you want the revenues to be as high as possible so that we can get the revenue distribution that we are not in a position where we're going to significantly reduce the gap between us and the SEC and the Big Ten. We have to be realistic. But we need to get to the point where we're solidly in third place in terms of the revenue we're getting, because we sponsor 26 going on 27 varsity sports. And so we need that revenue to be able to operate. So the bottom line for us is, what's that number going to be? So then we can factor in what we're going to be able to finance and what additional financing we need to make sure we can operate at the appropriate level. And then just be able to settle in on the other issues we need to address, i.e. conference expansion, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up the word conference expansion, which that seems over the last 12 months has been, outside of the actual games, the most talked about thing as it relates to college football, college basketball. Obviously, the LA schools. There's been rumors over the last month about Colorado, U of A. I'm just curious from your perspective, do you think there would ever be a scenario that would make sense for Arizona State to explore another conference? And if so, what would that scenario have to be?
Well, we're just very frankly, and Dr. Crow said this, and I've said this, we're solidly in the Pac-12, Pac-10. Call it what you want. It's the Pac. And that's where we really believe we belong and we want to be, with a lot of like-minded schools with very good competition and really elite academics. That's important to us. So we don't talk or think about other conferences, very frankly. At one point, there was some discussion last summer about whether or not with the ACC we might think of some scheduling alliance so that some of your non-conference competitions would be consistently with ACC teams and then get some continuity in the scheduling. But beyond that, very frankly, there's been no interest in talking about any of the other conferences. And I'll say it emphatically. I have no interest personally as the AD. I don't make the call finally. That would be the president and the Board of Regents. But I, as an AD, am very committed to the Pac-12.
So I won't ask you to comment necessarily on their future in the Pac-12, but like Anthony mentioned, the U of A has been one of the schools that has kind of been rumored of potentially leaving. Just what do you think is the value of that rivalry, particularly with obviously you two being in the same conference? Like, how valuable is it to have that kind of in-state rival that you have in U of A?
Oh, we love the rivalry and hope that under any circumstances that would continue. You have to, first and foremost, what's in the best interest of your student athletes. That's a rivalry across sports that's in the best interest of our student athletes. So you would, in my view, not have any good business reason to turn your back on that. Very frankly, I feel the same way about USC and UCLA. They're going to leave, but very frankly, they're a bus ride away, and they're good competition. And we got a lot of students from Southern California and elsewhere who want to go back and forth to Southern California to play those two, really fine universities. So even if they're in a different conference, for our purposes, for our student athlete welfare and just for practical reasons, we're going to keep them in our scheduling lineup. Wait, I don't really care what other Pac-12 teams might do. We're not going to play them because they left us, etc. They may have their own reasons, but for the competition and the experience of our student athletes, playing in the Coliseum and playing in the Rose Bowl and playing in Poly Pavilion, that's an experience. Likewise, those folks coming to our place get an experience coming to play with us. So those rivalries in state and very frankly in close proximity out of state, i.e. Southern California, are very important to us. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to do everything I can to retain those rivalries.
Absolutely. Want to talk a little bit about Kenny Dillingham for a second, because it feels like he's been the head coach at Arizona State for 5+ years now, but it hasn't even been a full season with him at the helm. He hasn't even actually taken the field in game one. But what he's done to the program, the brand, in just a 6-7 month period, it feels like a breath of fresh air, I imagine, for ASU fans. What is it like for you to see, after the last 3-4 years, to now have a new head coach, a young head coach? Just what's it been like to watch him just kind of work through this first half year?
Well, it's been very gratifying to see a young coach, the youngest coach in FBS, as we all know, get his opportunity to come and take the reins and be the head coach. And Kenny's is such a unique, one-of-a-kind situation, as we all know, having been here, coached here, been in high school here. His family's from here. It seems like he's got 6 generations of family members who lived and went to ASU. So it was a very unique situation, but also to see him come in and grab the reins, and certainly with regard to exciting and activating the Valley, as he put it. And, it's reflected in our season ticket sales and our renewals. We're at all-time highs because people are excited about the narrative and what he's put around him, and a lot of the coaches who are from Arizona, as you know, bringing back through the portal several former Arizona high school players who, through the portal, have decided he can come home and they come home and work for Kenny Dillingham and play for Kenny Dillingham and coaches that they're very familiar with. So, as the athletic director, very pleased. Plus, at this point, we're undefeated. We got a brand new head coach. The Valley's excited. We're undefeated. What do I have to complain about? Heck, I'm the happiest guy in the room, I can tell you.
Love to hear that. So I mean, obviously, what is, I guess, success look like for Kenny Dillingham? Is it as simple as just winning football games, or is there kind of more to it, especially early on when you're evaluating Kenny's success?
Yeah, great question, Shai. No, it's never as simple as just winning. What you look for, particularly what I'm looking for, is what is the culture? What is the basic foundational culture and environment in which he wants to operate, and what he wants his team and his coaches and his personnel to be doing the right way. And so it's the culture set. This is some transitional stuff now. First time head coach coming into a situation. A lot of players have left. A lot of players have come in new through the portal. You have a few high school players, but it's a whole different dynamic in terms of putting together a roster now for any head coach, particularly with the transfer portal and now NIL and all those things factoring in. So Kenny's got a bunch to deal with. First and foremost is get the culture right. Because if you get the culture right, then the recruiting and everything else gets better and better and better. And then ultimately, certainly the plan is to have it translate on the field in wins that get you to significant bowl game and postseason play. And that's why we're excited about Kenny. I think he's off to a tremendous start in that regard.
Absolutely. Last couple questions and we'll get you out of here, Ray. Camp T is coming back. What did it take to actually make that happen, and what's it going to take, I guess, moving forward to keep it as a tradition that's coming back?
Well, we were going back up there, as you know, and then the COVID pandemic hit, and you just could not at all justify for student athlete health and safety and anybody else who's going up there to quaint but tight quarters for football, and all you have to do, particularly if there was a pandemic. So we were able to go back last year just for a brief look-see. But this year, now that we feel like we have that contained, we've made some appropriate improvements in our facilities up there. Really excited about going back up there. And that's one of the things that Kenny, Coach Dillingham, wanted to do right away, because he remembers that experience and how important it was to this football program. So I think everyone's excited to go up for 3 or 4 days. We'll test with a shorter period of time, and maybe going forward we might stretch it out to 4 or 5 days. We shall see. But going up to Camp T is very exciting to renew that tradition for all of us.
For the people that obviously that have such fond memories of Camp T prior to the pandemic, what are there any like major differences that people should be expecting with Camp T, or is it going to be relatively the same to what it was pre-pandemic?
Well, we put in a brand new turf field going back 3-4 years ago with the help of our partners, Adidas. We asked them to contribute. So the field and the practice surface and space is much better. So the public will see that. The public won't see behind the scenes some modest upgrades to the living quarters and the dining hall, etc. So the public will see a very beautifully kept practice field and facility, and I think they'll be very pleased with that. In the old days, apparently Coach Cush, when they first got up there, the team would have to walk the field and pick up all the rocks and stuff. We don't have that problem anymore because we got fine maintenance people up there, and the artificial turf prevents us from having to deal with too many rocks and pebbles and what have you.
Oh, man. Okay, Ray, last one. I'm throwing you softball here. You're entering year 10. What are you most proud of as an athletic director at Arizona State over the last 9 years and change?
Our academic progress rate. That is real. It's the student athlete experience. And at the end of the day, we're in the leadership development business. And that means you got to have the basics. And the basics for me have always started with education at the highest level. So the fact that we are now for the second year number one in the Pac-12 in APR is very gratifying. And we give that credit to the student athletes that we're bringing in, and certainly the coaches and administrators who stress that the academics are going to be very important here. And if you're not willing to stress that, don't recruit that student athlete here. And so very proud of the academic progress we've made, and then very proud of the sports we've added. We came along in a time when folks were looking for excuses to cut sports. We've added 4 sports and intend to continue. Our hockey is here because we decided at the appropriate time to elevate hockey. And now fast forward, look what we have in this program in Mullet Arena and all the other things that facility is bringing to the Valley. And then lacrosse and triathlon, 5-6-time national champion to be sure, and bringing back men's tennis. And you have Murphy Classon, the number 4 player in the whole country. And so adding the Olympic sports, the non-revenue sports that we were talking about, when we could, when others, very frankly, just didn't have the will or the tenacity to get it done, we got it done, and those sports are thriving. Very proud of that as well.
Absolutely. Ray, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
My pleasure. See you, Sean. See you, Anthony. You guys have good summers.
You as well.